meeting order. Start the pledge. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving the agenda.
Could we actually, we've got to put the payables and payroll on?
Ten.
And also, I just would like to pass on the information on nomination papers being available. So I don't know if you want me to just do that under public forum or.
Anything else? Yeah, you gonna move something or no?
No, I don't know.
All right, to approve with the changes. So moved.
Second.
Yeah, all's in favor? Public forum. This is the time of the meeting when the public can speak. Non-agenda items. If you would just state your name.
Which one of us?
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't even see Linda, to be honest with you. So.
Okay, well, then it's me. Donna Buckinderin. And I have handouts, because I always do. Everybody. As you probably are aware, the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee has been meeting for 3 years. And one of the things that comes up in the comprehensive plan frequently, as in 9 times, is the arrow. And I may be off on this by a little bit, but to the best of my knowledge, we haven't had an arrow published in almost 2 years. What I've given the selectmen is a copy of everything in the comp plan that has to do with the arrow and the reasons why we should have one. For some background on this, in 2010, the Administrative Review Committee did a survey of over 1,500 Arundel residents, which is a good significant portion of our population, and 76% of them plus responded that they always or sometimes read the arrow. 64% of them agreed the town should continue to publish the arrow. 63% said it should be available both as a paper version and on the website. Almost 72% of the residents were opposed to spending money to have the arrow professionally prepared, and almost 90% would be in favor of local businesses placing ads in the arrow to cover some of the costs. I believe that far more people in town would read the arrow than view the tapes of the meetings that are done. From what I understand, they get very little viewership. It's an important source of information for the majority of townspeople who don't attend meetings, which is indeed the majority of townspeople with most meetings, and especially for people who are new to town. We give them an introduction to who we are, what we do, why we do it. I also think we're doing a great disservice to the people in town who do not have internet access, and that includes not just elderly people, but certainly a large number of them. And it would be very nice if we could, since we have a comprehensive plan that we keep updating, I think it would be appropriate if we followed what's in the comprehensive plan or change it. There are days I would just as soon tear it up completely, but this is not one of those. What I would like the other point is in the comprehensive plan, when the arrow is mentioned, it's always given high priority. Not medium, not low, not never, but high. So my request this evening is I would like the selectmen to officially request that the arrow be reinstated as a regular newsletter, at the very least a couple times a year, and in particular that the next issue go out prior to June 2016 elections. I think that's only fair to the people in town. And one of the things we complain about all the time is that the people in town are not engaged in what is going on in town. We have difficulty getting volunteers for committees. We have difficulty getting people to attend certain functions. And we do nothing overt to invite them to participate. Yes, the website has vastly improved over the last couple of years, and in no small part to the efforts of people like John Bell, but that's not very good for people who don't frequent the website. I look at it occasionally, but not something I read for entertainment. But I do always read the Arrow word for word. Thank you.
Linda, you want to go next?
Yes. My name is Linda Zook. I'm an Arundel resident, business owner, and I'm also on the board of directors for the Kennebunk Port Arundel Chamber of Commerce. I wanted to talk a little bit about the chamber and what the chamber does for Arundel businesses. Arundel became a part of the chamber, I believe, back in 2012, about then. It has since changed their name to include Arundel. It updated its philosophy to include local service businesses and not just tourist businesses. And it updated its website to include Arundel and what we stand for and bring to the district. This year, the chamber is hosting an inaugural event called Launch, a Maritime Festival. This is a weekend-long event that is designed to bring the three communities together and showcase our maritime history. This festival will be a family-friendly and with many educational, historical, and fun events throughout the weekend. We kick off the festival on June 17th with the Landing School graduation boat launch, Arundel business. Later that evening, 2 events will also take place in Arundel, one at the Seafood Center on Route 1, the Clam Jam, and the other will take place at the Cape Arundel Cottage Preserve, which is the festival's top sponsor, which I think is kind of important. The list of what takes place for the rest of the weekend is long, and it's way too long to list, but you can go to the chamber website and the Launch Facebook page for more information. I bring this to your attention because I want to help spread the word to Arundel businesses that the chamber is their chamber and they go out of their way to support us. This festival is just a small example of how they benefit the local businesses. They also have many small business seminars that are free to local businesses, along with extensive ways to promote us. In fact, well, I'll do a little plug here, but we're having a business after hours Wednesday night at Weir's, if anybody's interested in going, from 5 to 7. I know Velma will be there. But anyways, I invite anybody to come so they can talk to some of the chamber members and they can see what they can do for you. Please consider the chamber if you have not, and consider the great example of how the 3 towns work together so well as one community. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I just want to add on to what Donna said.
Can you just state your name, please?
I feel strongly that we should have communication in this town, and the newsletter is not only is a communicator, but it's also a community builder in terms of knowing what like the Scouts are doing, what the Historical Society is doing, which is my own thing, but other organizations, the firemen and stuff like that, and it helps to break down barriers of mistrust and stuff like that. So I would like to see you guys direct or make a firm commitment. Donna said a couple times a year, I'd like to see it quarterly, frankly, because I think there's a lot going on, and you can fill a piece of paper every 3 months easily with stuff that's going on around here. Thank you very much.
Dorothy Gregoire. I would like to jump on that also. How much, you know, we've always said that it takes time, right? I think Simone did a boatload of it a couple of years ago when it came out. What are we looking at for staff to do that?
Actually, I've been talking to Keith, and between the transition and managers and everything, it did kind of fall by the wayside and everything, because just trying to keep up with everything. But we were just talking the other day about doing an arrow for May at least, definitely getting it started again, so.
Yeah, we were discussing
We were
quarterly.
Yeah,
But
quarterly.
it puts a really big workload, and I think that sometimes that gets put in the back, which I'm sure the priority list, it could. Would we ever consider hiring somebody to assist in that? Would that help? I mean, what would you be looking at for hours? Yeah.
At this point, I think we're okay. Just a
You think
matter.
so?
Yeah,
Well,
it's just a
get it
matter.
out there. Get it out there.
Anybody else in public?
While I have everybody's attention, I might as well do the announcement now. Nomination papers for the June municipal elections will be available beginning next Monday, March 21st, and have to be turned back into the town office by April 29th. Selectmen Velma Hayes and Jason Neto, that their positions are up for re-election. Aaron Neto from the RSU director position, which, so there'll be two selectmen's position, one for the RSU director. There are two budget board positions for 3 years, one budget board position for a 2-year term, and one budget board position for a 1-year term. Basically, you circulate nomination papers, a minimum of 25 signatures is required for your name to be placed on the ballot, and like I said, they have to be turned back in by April 29th to be applied to the June election.
Thank you, Simone. Anybody else?
Yes. Since the Arundel Historical Society was mentioned, I would like to tell you that we do have our May raffle calendar available. They do have some at Town Hall, I have some here, and which I would give to one of the other members if you would be interested. It's a donation of $5, and there are 31 chances. Not only that, but if your number is pulled, it does get put back in, and we have had multiple winners. Also, the Arundel has, David's in Kennebunkport, if any of you know that restaurant, it's a very nice restaurant. They have what they call Worthy Wednesday. And at David's in Kennebunkport on March 30th from 5 to 10, the Arundel Historical Society is going to be there, and David's is going to donate 10% of the evening's proceeds to the Arundel Historical Society. So hopefully you'll all come down to David's on that night, March 30th from 5 to 10, and join us. And we do have our raffle calendars for sale there, and we also will have some other raffles, and I think one of them is going to be some lobsters. So, thank you. I have lots of calendars. I already have mine. Would you like another one? They make great Easter gifts. They fit very well in an Easter basket. For $5, you can buy multiple.
Thank you, Velma. Anybody else from the public? Seeing none, I will close the public forum. Moving on, approval of the minutes, February 22nd. Motion to approve is written. Second. All in favor? Board reports. Budget board, we got a meeting tomorrow, right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, tomorrow evening, starting at 7, we will be reviewing the recreation budget, capital reserve account for recreation. We'll be reviewing the public works. I'm gonna have Roger come back in to discuss the ductwork project with you again. We will go over the town government administration budget, and then we'll wrap it up with some revenue for you.
Another RSU meeting is 3/21/16, is that correct? 7 p.m.? Planning board, 3/24/16. Now, the last planning board got moved to the fire station, is that?
Well, I think
They did it in the gym, I believe.
Yeah.
There was the book, Scholastic book.
I don't know if that's something to do with the renovation. Mr. Manager.
Yes, in your packet, I put in there, the Comstar is our ambulance billing service, and we've made some recommendations or some, review of our ambulance rates. I've reviewed that with the, fire chief, and we're under the opinion that our rates should stay the same. We don't see any change coming. I wanted to provide that to you, unless I hear some strong objections to keeping our rates the same. I will go ahead and sign this authorization form on behalf of the town.
Any comments on that? Did we just raise the rates last year?
No, we kept the rates the same from the previous year as well.
second that.
Second, all in favor?
Then authorize the manager to sign, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anything else from you?
No, sir.
Old business. Submittal of a petition for withdrawal from Article 21.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the petitioners were nice enough to, based on your previous meeting, you'd asked them to refresh some signatures on the petition that was submitted as a result of some of them coming in at, that was signed 2014 and 2015. They completed that task. The petition was submitted to the clerk's office. It has been certified that there is enough signatures on it for the petition. In the previous time, I had taken a look at the statute because the municipal law and the education law is slightly different, and I had some questions relative to the way the petition was written. However, based on the information that was provided to me, as well as past review by this community in reference to the petition, I believe that the petition satisfies all the requirements of law at this point and should be moved forward for consideration and a vote.
Where did we talk about the dollar figure?
As I understand, if you go ahead and vote to move the petition forward, now we begin the process of the development of the warrant. The warrant has was developed the previous time. It pretty well mirrored what was in 20A. The piece that we would have to put together would be to come up with a definitive cost related to the process of establishing, if it's favorable, establishing the withdrawal committee and all the work that's necessitated with that, if in fact it's successful. So I know at your last time you did it, there was a $35,000 amount that was placed upon it. At this point, I'm not sure if you spent all the $35,000, and you also took the money from fund balance to have a vote on that withdrawal process. I did some research today. There are a variety of communities that have gone through this process, have used the numbers, but on average, it appeared to me that there was somewhere between $30,000 and $35,000 seemed to be the number. I don't know, I haven't done enough research yet to determine if the number that you used in the past was enough money to cover all the costs that were associated with putting that together. You folks that were on the board may have more knowledge of that than I. I have to do a little more research on it in order to make a recommendation to you as to what dollars should be put into that warrant article.
I mean, I don't think we have any choice. I make a motion that we accept the petition and move forward. I don't think we have a choice.
What's the receipt? $279.
It's 279 total signatures.
Signatures.
Signature.
Oh, all that is a signature.
Yeah. The first group was the 111 that you received on February 18th, and then the second group is that with the additional signatures that qualified, that were accepted on February 29th.
Like the dollars and cents. All right, a motion.
I'll second that. I think we need to move forward.
Any more discussion? All those in favor of accepting?
Any discussion from the group here?
From the public?
No.
Any of them?
Okay, we have to vote first.
From the board.
or from the public. We have to do that.
So I guess, motion and a second. Any more discussion from the board? All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Sorry, but we had a public forum, we typically don't.
Okay, so we're non-agenda items.
You said non-agenda items on your public forum.
New business, proposed land use ordinance, reformat warrant.
I think we should take up.
Yeah, I do.
And beyond that, I think, should we discuss, I mean, what's the
I
next
think,
step in the
yeah,
process?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Now that you've accepted it, you may want to continue the discussion on what the next step is and how much money, if you have any opinion as to what kind of money should go into that.
This was the problem last time. It was a seat of the pants operation. We had no idea how much money to put aside. We just guessed at numbers, I recollect. And we didn't even know if we should do it because of the statutes
Right.
construct. But I think we should look at what we spent last time and anticipate we're gonna spend a little bit more. And have that information before we move forward.
I can gather that information, I'll do some more research, it'll take a little more effort, but I'm sure that we can get a very concrete number in terms of to move forward.
So here we are we're in March. Does this have to be, this be on June, or do we have to, put
Well,
this together to vote before we have it?
The statute, the statute on 28 isn't very clear on that. I do know that the clerk, it definitely has to be by secret ballot. And the clerk needs 45 days prior to that, in order for her to get the ballots, once we know what the ballot's gonna say, get the ballots printed, have them ready for absentee balloting, absentee voting, as well as for the meeting. So it would be my recommendation, is to shoot for the June 14th meeting, which would be, for us, it would fall within all the other activities and votes that we have going on. The 14th would be the school vote, it would be this withdrawal vote, and then the following evening would be our annual town meeting. It would curb our outstanding costs if we had to have a secret ballot initiative prior to that. We'd have to incur a cost to get that done. It seems to flow into the process. And I think unless somebody I know, a lot more people probably more knowledgeable than this than I am on this, but when I look at it, it seems like once that vote's been taken, there's enough time to begin the process to, and if that successful vote, there's enough time to notify the DOE, to go ahead and have the withdrawal committee established, and then begin to have the analysis done and have that information available for a vote, I would suspect in November, which would meet the statute, which if that vote was to withdraw, then that would give them enough time to make the withdrawal come July of the next year. So I think there's enough time there. But I think once we begin this process, as long as we get it done, we'll move forward.
My name is Noel Holmes. At this time, if I can, I'd like to introduce Attorney Dan Stockford from the law firm of Brandon Isaacson. To provide some of his information, he might be able to answer some of your questions in his professional opinion in this matter. He specializes in municipal legal matters and has represented many towns already in the withdrawal process. Dan?
Hi, my name is Dan Stockford. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Brandon Isaacson, and I practice school law and have for many years. We have the second largest school practice in the state, and as a result of our representing school districts, we've also represented a number of municipalities about 20 municipalities that have gone through the withdrawal process since the school reorganization. I think as far as the timing is concerned, the negotiation process tends to be fairly, or it can be lengthy depending on the exchange between the town's withdrawal committee and the RSU. And if the goal is to try for a November vote, which is that would be the latest that there could be a vote for a 2017 withdrawal, I would urge you to consider having the vote on whether to establish the withdrawal committee as quickly as possible. Starting the process in June would provide a very short time frame to have a withdrawal agreement negotiated, submitted to the commissioner, sent back to the town, submitted to the commissioner for conditional approval, sent back to the withdrawal committee, and then submitted to the commissioner for final approval. So I think it's in the town's interest to move the process forward earlier rather than later if the goal is to have a vote in November. As far as the dollars, I think that the town manager has accurately summarized what the sort of standard amount that municipalities have included in their warrants, and I understand that last time you included 35,000. I would suggest including around that amount, 35 or 40,000. If there's funds left over, those can go back into the fund balance, or they can be used. Sometimes there's costs associated. If there is a withdrawal vote, there's costs associated with ramping up and getting ready for the new municipal school committee to be established, and some municipalities have used the leftover funds for that purpose as well. But in any event, appropriating something in that range is fairly standard and within the realm of what I've seen other municipalities do. So if you have any questions about the process, I'd be happy to answer them. But I think my bottom line suggestion would be, I think it's in the town's interest to move sooner rather than later. And I think that 35,000, 40,000 range would be an appropriate amount to consider putting in the article.
I have some concerns about the fact that we have to hire counsel, and we've got to hire something like Planning Decisions or those types of organizations to assist us in doing the financial and economic analysis here.
Yeah.
That's got to go out to an RFP. So that's going to take additional time as well, it seems to me. And the June date may allow us to put out the RFP and start getting some quotes or proposals with respect to those two items. And we have to have those people on board literally right from the get-go.
Yeah, I have seen towns do that by RFP, and that's certainly a proper way to handle it. Other towns,
that's our policy.
Yeah. Other towns have done it more informally, but that's your policy. I agree with that.
Any questions for the hearing? Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else have anything else to say for this?
Diane Robbins, Tom Arundel, been through this once before, haven't we, Tom?
Yes, we have.
I sat on the committee to negotiate the last time. One of the things that's really important, and I don't believe that we exceeded the amount last time because we weren't allowed to exceed that amount. I think the way it's worded and the way that the wording that the state gives us is you put in not to exceed the dollar amount, so it can't exceed without going back to the voters. I think that's the way it's worded, but if it's the same wording as it was before, which I believe it is, I believe it says not to exceed and you put a dollar amount.
Whatever that
in.
number is, that's what we're stuck with.
Right, and we can't exceed it unless, well, you can, but the only way to exceed it is you would have to take it to another vote.
Anything else? Scott?
Dorothy Gregoire. Here we go again. 2012 planning decisions. With their analysis, with absolutely no benefit to education and absolutely no cost savings. What has changed since 2012? One, the state gives less and less in financial aid and educational promises year after year. Since the 2012 planning decision, cost sharing has been adapted in RSU 21, putting the town of Arundel with a significant dollar amount benefit, pretty much being subsidized by the other two towns. What has changed since 2012? A $54 million bond we're part of. What has changed since 2012? Tuition. The state tells us tuition. Everyone thinks it's a fixed cost. Every year it has increased. From 2014 with just under a 3% increase, 2015 almost a 6% increase, to this year almost a 4% increase. Well over $8,215. So what I'm asking is let's not hurry into it. Take our time to get the right analysis, go through it again. But I'm also asking, as a town, if there's anything that we can get in the arrow that we talked about earlier. It's pretty simple. You take the 2012 cost analysis, you can plug in some numbers. I know every single one of you up there know that it's significantly more money to be on our own, never mind the educational benefits. There's a lot of people that aren't in this room right now that have no idea are going up to take a vote on the process that might just, oh, it's just a cost study. It's $35,000 or whatever we're gonna do. We have not been able to fund the library in Kennybunk, what they asked for $14,000. That's a lot of money. We've been down this road before. I'm tired of shelling out thousands of dollars when we're cutting, again, benefits that benefit the whole town, public library. Is there any way that we could get costs from the district, what we'd be looking at, to give them a heads up? We all know that it's not gonna cost us any less. We know it's gonna be more. I know it's gonna be significantly more. I just don't want people blindly going in with the rhetoric that happened last year. I mean, the last time we went through this, scare tactics, misinformation. The selectmen, I'm really looking at you guys to guide this town into all the new businesses that's come here. Keep the town of Arundel desirable. Don't let our taxes go over the roof.
Just to
State your name, please.
Oh, Melissa Long. Just to add to that about plugging numbers in here and there, I think that is exactly what we are trying to fight against. That is a huge issue that has come about, and what has changed since 2012 is we have been promised by the RSU, by the Department of Education, and by this very board that we would continue to have school choice. That is what this whole argument boils down to. That is now being threatened for everybody from 5th grade down. So plugging in numbers here and there is not the way to handle this. The way to handle this is to submit the petitions. We did. Let the petitions go, hire somebody to accurately review all of the numbers as they stand today. Remember, we voted on this bond, this $56 million bond, based upon the promise that we would still have school choice. If that hadn't happened in the vote in 2012, if school choice was taken off the table, we may very well not be here today. So what we need to do is get the accurate information out to everybody. I agree. Transparency for all. We want accurate information. That doesn't come from just plugging in numbers here and there. That comes from spending $35,000, hiring a company to do this based upon what we have now gotten ourselves into with this bond based upon false information. So sorry, my voice is shaking, I'm not good at public speaking. But what we need is accurate information, not just plugging in numbers from a 2012 study when everything is completely different now. And the main thing that's completely different now is school choice is off the table. That's all.
One more thing that you may want to go and take a look at, and Velma may remember this, but I remember it's engraved in my brain. Might want to go take a look at what that cost-sharing agreement says. Because there was a vital portion in that cost-sharing that becomes open in 2017. It was made so that it couldn't be reopened until 2017. In 2017, I believe that cost-sharing agreement can be reopened and re-voted on, and the amount that everybody pays can change. I'm not I wouldn't ever say that I know everything about cost-sharing, but I sat through enough of those meetings. But that date is ingrained in that cost-sharing agreement that was agreed upon. And I believe what happened is they said that it could not be reopened until 2017, which will be next year. And my fear is, and it's just a fear, but when you have such a weighted vote of 6 and 3 and 3, makes it very difficult. So I'm not sure they're going to do anything with it, but when somebody says, you know, there's a cost-sharing agreement, you need to know what that whole cost-sharing agreement is and what the risks are with that cost-sharing agreement. And I'd like to hear that from somebody that's a professional and not just somebody who knows that it has a date in it.
Can I respond to that? The cost-sharing committee is made up of, if I remember correctly, 12 people, 3 from each town. Town managers of all 3 towns, and at least 1 selectman, possibly 2 from the other towns, and an attorney who led the committee and led the discussions. So there was no weighted one way or the other. The cost-sharing committee was made up equally of all 3 towns. We worked for almost 3 months to come up with something that was as equitable as possible for all 3 towns. And someone just said that Arundel did come out very well with that. And yes, I thought that we did come out very well with that. That decision then went to the school board, and the school board had already given their approval of whatever the committee came out with is what they would go with.
What initiates the cost-sharing discussion? Is it the school board that says all of a sudden we want, or is it a petition from the citizens, or what initiates another discussion?
I don't know, but I think in that case it was brought up by Kennebunkport in that case, and as part of the discussion, it was decided that it would come up again it could come up again in 2017.
So the cost-sharing committee, does analyze the, pros and cons, and then submits that to the RSU board, which then makes the final decision.
They make the final decision, but we already knew sitting on that committee, because the people on that committee were from all 3 towns. And we already knew that the work that we were doing wasn't in vain. We weren't going to present them with something and they were going to say, oh no, that's not what we want. They knew going in, and the cost-sharing committee knew going in, that the school board was very, very already appreciative of what we were doing, and that what was decided in the cost-sharing committee, that they would accept.
Now that the RSU's been around for a while, this is gonna be the first time they reopen it, if they reopen it.
No, that was, when the RSU was first started, of course, there was a cost-sharing.
Yeah.
That last committee was actually, if you talked, it was actually, would have been the second committee. So if it opens again in 2017, it would be, in effect, the third committee, because the first one would have been when we first formed. So
Okay.
that was the second one.
I just want to be clear on the process.
Yes.
So the RSU does make the final decision?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to say one thing. My name is Michelle Hyman. I just wanted to say to you, first of all, thank you for letting the petition be put out there for the public to vote on. And then secondly, I did want to speak to the fact that I know myself, or ourselves included, as well as a couple of other families, that specifically moved to Arundel for school choice. So when we were looking and moving to Maine from New York, we specifically moved to Arundel. So school choice is very important in people's decisions. So I just wanted to say thanks for letting the petition go.
The cost sharing, if I remember right, it is in the policy of every 5 years it gets reopened, every 5 years. So that would have been the reason why it's not somebody that brings it up. That was on the first one that went into policy. And if I remember, can somebody correct me? So let's just say it comes up 2017 and they vote to change it, 80-20 or whatever, to a particular town. That would be going forward. That's not back. That's not like all of a sudden our debt, our $56 million debt becomes shared cost-wise. That would be voting on the budget every year and anything new debt that comes into circulation. Am I correct? I'm kind of looking at. Yes.
I don't have
Cost
the
sharing,
agreement in front of me. I'm not gonna comment on what it says.
Yeah, I believe that's what it is. So it would be anything forward, school budget and everything.
Yes, because that would be a new cost-sharing agreement, yeah.
Yeah.
My name is Jay Woods, I'm a resident in town of Arundel, and also a Kennedy High School graduate. This isn't even about each school, and I know Kennebunk's a great school, Thornton's a great school, we've had a great experience. I think there's been very little consideration given to the relationship that has been established with Thornton Academy and what this could potentially do to a lot of these families that have moved here for this purpose. I've got a 5th grader, so potentially she's gonna make it through TA, but what about my 3rd grader? So I know that everybody was really tired the other night at the morning, completely got that point, but it's an important issue. This is really, really important. I don't understand how so many people could be under the same impression that we were going to have school choice. And for this to even be happening right now, we wouldn't be withdrawn if this wasn't even started. Nobody wants to be going through this. Nobody wants to do a withdrawal committee. Nobody wants to spend $35,000. Like my 10-year-old said to me, it's simple. Why don't the kids that want to go to Kennebunk go to Kennebunk? And why don't the kids that want to go to TA go to TA? And you know what it comes down to? Money. Money, money, money. And unfortunately, I don't trust the RSU. So what it says in paper and what they can change at any point in time they want to, they will. Because it's already happening. That's why we're here.
It wasn't the RSU that made that change.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think this young lady is exactly right, that this all boils down to money. And as a fairly elderly taxpayer who's lived in Arundel for nearly 20 years, and I now on a fixed income, money is very, very important. I can't see how we can withdraw from the RSU without incurring a very, very heavy increase in our property taxes. And quite frankly, I'm strapped paying what I've got to pay now. I can't afford a 50 or possibly 100% increase so that your child can have this option. Now, I have nothing against paying taxes so that the kids can get a good education, but I think they can get a good education at Kennebunk for a fraction of the price of what this is going to cost us to send them to Thornton Academy.
And I respect that, I respect that 100%. But we've got people saying, this is gonna bankrupt the town. And then I hear other people saying, we could actually make out a little bit better in this, and we can take back control. So I wanna know, because I don't know, I wanna know the facts. That's what I want. I want the facts. I want numbers. I wanna know how this town would survive without it, and what the benefit would be to stay in it. I wanna know. And I think it's important that we do know, because there's a lot of stuff being said.
3 or 4 years ago, we spent about $30,000 to come up with a set of numbers. And I cannot in any way imagine that if we go through that process again to the tune of, we're talking $40,000 tonight, we're not gonna come up with some magical set of numbers that says we can do it cheaper by sending these kids to Florida. I'm sorry, but it ain't gonna happen. And I would like to make one other point too. I would feel a lot better about this petition being submitted if it was done maybe a month or two down the road. Right now, we don't even know what the RSU policy is gonna be on paying for the kids' tuition or on busing or anything else. But we're gonna go rushing into a $40,000 job just because we're so damned impatient. I don't like it. I don't like it. Yeah.
I'm Denise Toshak. I grew up in Kennebunk my whole life, and I've lived in Arundel, well, until I moved to Arundel 20 years ago. I have 5 children in the school system. I know the school system in Kennebunk, and I know the school system in Thornton. We chose to have our kids stay in Thornton. My husband and I have stayed in Arundel so our kids had school choice, so that each with their individual needs could go to the school that was best for them, so that they could continue to support the community. And I think Thornton has given us that chance. The reason that we have gone ahead with this petition so early is not to increase our taxes. I don't think there's anybody in this room that can afford higher taxes. It's because we need answers, and the RSU has said that, and threatened not to bus our kids. If you don't bus our kids,
That hasn't even been
Yes, it has. If you look at
the next board meeting is pre.
Folks, one at a time, please.
they said at the meeting the other night, and then they keep putting things off. People with children need to make decisions. We have to, if we have younger children, have our answer to what school they're going in by April 12th, I believe. You can't make those decisions if they're not going to bus our kids.
John.
Okay. First of all, the decision on busing hasn't been made yet. They've got a meeting coming up in a couple of weeks, and that was part of my objection is we're in here with this petition to withdraw from the RSU when we don't even know what the RSU's position is. And the second thing, this is really not about school choice. You have school choice. No matter what the situation in Arundel, you can always send your kids to Thornton. But who is going to pay for it is the question. And I'm saying I don't mind paying for a kid's education if it's done reasonably economically by sending them to the RSU. If you want school choice, you pay for it. Send your kids to Thornton and you pick up the tab. I don't want to.
I don't think I should pay to have other kids bus to a different school.
Folks, you're here to address this board, not to have conversations among yourselves.
Yeah.
If you have something to present to us, that's what this is for. These are arguments and debates you're gonna have going forward as we decide how to vote on this.
We stayed in this town to have the school choice, and I think if you took a poll of a lot of families and a lot of businesses that are here, a lot of them came and stayed here for the school choice.
I'm Sean Garrity. I'm a parent of 2 kids in Oakville Day. The petition that was presented to you is the basis of that because school choice was taken away. Is that the basis of this all?
No, it went out before that was taken away. So the petition started before.
Taken away is a pretty harsh statement. We have 2 lawyers on 2 different sides, right or wrong at this point, who've made an interpretation of the law. That's all they've done. They've only made an interpretation of the law. They both stated that this is going to come down to a judge's decision. Choice has not been taken away. There's been no judgment. There's been 2 interpretations by lawyers at this point. That's all. Just like the transportation has not been given up yet. Like, if that's what this petition is about, is because choice has been taken away, it's not valid. Choice has not been removed.
I believe choice has been removed for anybody under 5th grade.
No.
They voted on that the other night in the school board meeting. Furthermore, the transportation issue was started back before they even brought up the choice issue. And that was because they went to their attorneys and asked. And if you look at the paperwork, it clearly states on their side that they have the right to take away the choice. And on the Thornton side, it says that they don't. So yes, it is up to the judge. But I do think that this is about transportation, about paying for transportation, about paying for school, and about school choice.
Then
And
why
I
shouldn't
think
we
that
wait
the
till it
only
gets
way
decided?
forward
This
is
is
through
frugal
the
to spend this
petition.
money. This is insane.
Which is the point, why are we putting forth a petition about withdrawing when we don't even know the answer to the question, if that's what it was all about? I mean, the petition actually went out, well, it started in 2014, 2015. This petition has absolutely nothing to do with choice, nothing at all. It started with the busing. Busing is an easy fix. School districts throughout the country are working out busing issues, and it would have been an easy fix, but instead we go into this panic, and I don't know how withdrawing is going to get your kids bused anywhere in the fall. It's not. So that, the petition to me has no relevance. Why is it out there? I mean, why did we put it out there? We're getting all these different answers. The truth of the matter is there was no middle school choice. Everybody was required to go to TAMS.
That's right.
And there's high school choice, and high school choice remains. When I moved here, back to Arundel, I was under the impression that my kids were going to be going through kindergarten through 8th grade right here at good old ML Day like I did. But no, I had to ship them off 2 towns over to TAMS. Not my choice, very disappointing choice. So I didn't have a choice. We have high school choice, and that's it.
TAMS took this girl and turned her into an honor student. When she left here, she had a D in math. And now, with TAM's help, she is an honor roll student. So for her, she's got a brother in 2nd grade here. For him not to be able to follow in her footsteps is just, it's disheartening, absolutely disheartening. And what is the difference between when we joined the RSU and before? What's the difference? Where were the buses then, before the RSU even formed? Who was busing the kids? When we joined the RSU, our taxes didn't go down. So
Not mine.
I didn't see any tax change. Absolutely not. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people that are angry and ready to move out of this town because we've been lied to.
My name is Christy Reichel. I'm a mother of 2 kids. They're actually only 4 years old. They're not even in the school system. I only really learned about this because I have nieces that are directly impacted by the current decision. So I said, you know what, I'm going to go to the school board meeting and I'm going to listen to what they have to say. Because I grew up here. I lived here for 30 years. I lived right up the road, 1 time all day, K through 8. And then I had my choice, you're right, of high school. And I picked the school that I wanted to go to, and that was great. When the issue of school choice came up, I was just devastated because I felt like we just voted on this. And a lot of people in this town voted to stay in this RSU based on that promise that we would have school choice. And it's really devastating knowing that you cast a vote and it was based on misinformation, let's call it. It feels like we're tricked. You know, all of a sudden the contract comes up and, oh, let's look at the law, and oh, you guys really don't have choice. Oh, isn't that convenient? It's just very upsetting. I have 2 4-year-olds. I don't have a kid that needs a bus right now. I don't have a kid that needs their choice in the next few years. I wanted choice for my kids in the future, and that's why I stayed here. And it's extremely upsetting to not have that option.
And I know that most of you people have kids that are older and ready to go, and, you know, you're saying, what do I care, maybe in a few years, because my kid's not gonna be impacted anymore. But there are thousands of kids that, in this town, that will be impacted. Because you stand in front of a weighted school board, and if it's not this issue, it's going to be another one. We have only 3 members on that school board, and we have 2 towns that have always worked together, and they see us as the minority. And if it's not this issue, and especially if we no longer have school choice, they're gonna see it as, you don't really have an option. We had a school board member the other night at the meeting that tried to say, you know what, this isn't really fair, and this isn't good for our town, look what it's doing to our town. And she was basically mocked. That's what it seemed like. And it's just, it feels a little, you feel vulnerable as a townsperson, because what if my child has a need? And then I come to the school board and say, you know what, I'd really like, you know, you to consider keeping the nurse at, you know, Hillsdale Day School, or I would like you to consider not eliminating this sports program because it's gonna save you money, because it's important to my child. And they're gonna say, we are the majority, and we don't think that it's good for us as a whole, because it's costing us money. So you guys are the few, and you're just gonna have to suffer without it. They're gonna continue to take and take and take from our town. They're gonna turn this school probably into K-3. I'm just saying.
It's a community, it's work together. Exactly, your choice is not going.
Joseph Smart. I'm just wondering, the next step from our standpoint, is that we would vote as a town on the withdrawal, right? Or forming the committee, right? Correct? We're not spending any money until we take that vote.
Correct.
I didn't hear what you said because people were talking on.
You want to repeat it again, please?
Sorry, I just was trying to clarify that. We're not spending any money until we take a vote as a town to decide to spend money on the withdrawal committee.
Bill.
Hi, Bill Jewett, been here since '91. All my kids went through this school. I was fortunate enough to see them go through at a time when this place was an absolute mess. We came here one year, there were no bathrooms operating because we didn't have the money to deal with that. I had a disabled son in a wheelchair who needed a computer in a school board meeting. And the teachers looked at us and said, well, if he gets his computer, the 8th grade class doesn't get their books. I'm all set. We're going back to that. My other question is, if we move forward with this, what do we do then? Are we expecting someone else to come in and take over where the RSU left off? I don't understand.
It would be a community school unit, standalone unit at that point in time. We'd have to have a school board, we'd have to have all the...
K through 8.
What's that?
K through 8.
No. We have to provide K through 8 education, but we're probably going to have to, once again, contract out someplace else for our... We don't have a facility here that's going to have availability for K through 8.
Why couldn't we have school choice at that point?
Because we'd have to contract out, maybe we contract out to several districts, I don't know, but we'd have to contract out those students. We're not going to have a middle school.
I think that's something that would need to be, could the attorney that was here a few minutes ago speak on how other school districts have done that?
No, I think it's on too far.
Okay, I just was curious.
I would just, as a taxpayer, like to remind people that no matter what happens, you retain high school choice. A comment that's been made is that we have we're outweighted. If you consider Thornton Academy, we are totally outweighted. You absolutely do not have any representation on their curriculum or their school decisions at all. You send your child there and they make all the decisions, and at least with the RSU you have some representation. And you know, I think that's and if we, as far as school choice goes, again, we might have to contract. If the RSU decides not to take our kids, you have no choice as far as middle school. You know, the parents who want to might not be able to make a choice either, you know, it's one, it might be just another contract.
It would be up to where we send the kids, or where we could send the kids, like the RSU could say, we'll take your middle school kids, but it's gonna cost you this much, or we want guaranteed pupils. This is what TA did to us back, 10 years ago. TA said, yeah, we'll take your kids, but you know what? We want a contract because we're investing and they needed to cover their costs. But the same thing could happen again. We don't know that. It's too premature to state that and to know which direction we're going, but that could very well happen. At this point, the process will have to go through its process, and then we'll see what happens at that
I
point.
believe they have said, though, that they do not want another contract with us.
OTA?
Yes.
They could force us into one.
I've never been forced by TA.
Again, that'll be approached, if we decide to separate from the RSU, then that's gonna be part of the discussions going forward.
I think that's why petition is important to be able to get people to.
Jesse Carl. We have choice over both the schools with the town of Arundel, all of our kids. Each side wants our kids on either side. So if we were to get out of the RSU, Kennebunk has a school that's going to be filling. We're paying for it. So TAMS also has their school that's mostly filled with our students. Both of them are going to want us there. That's all I have.
Susan Senate, Karen Arundel. I was just curious, has there been any talk or is there any idea for even the selectmen to have a judge check to see if that's legal one way or the other, to see what there's finding, so that there's not this discussion or this question of whether or not there is what either lawyer is looking at? Has there been any discussion of possibly doing that to possibly stem other, in other words, withdrawal or not? Because it could be a moot point if it's found that, well, the original finding from RSU 21 is correct, or the original finding from the lawyer that TA had was correct, then that could actually give clarity before more money is spent. Is there a possibility that might be something that the selectmen might look into as a precursor to?
Susan, you're gonna have to hire to do that? People you're gonna have to hire to do that, right?
A lawyer.
Right, and that's gonna cost money.
Right.
And a lot of money. And I can tell you, believe me, I don't know whether a colleague agrees or not, but it costs a lot of money to get into litigation. And if we filed something, I don't think you'd have a decision out of a judge in this county for a year.
Okay.
I think if somebody wants the judge to decide, it seems to me the RSU and TA ought to get involved in a declaratory judgment action of some sort and get somebody to figure out what the statute means or it doesn't.
It's just going to be affecting the town. That's why I'm wondering if the town should be involved in the actual lawsuit as well, because it's going to be affecting
Now, that could be another $35,000 or $40,000.
I understand that, but I'm saying if the question is people arguing one versus the other, if you need clarity, it could be just done by that finding itself. Do you know what I'm saying?
I understand
cost. I'm saying to you that this is a bubble over the thing. You said, she said, it's over it. You know what I mean? So that needs to be a judge finding it. So in order for it to be done, is that something you guys can consider? And your answer to me is no.
And so we couldn't consider it, just says it's going to cost money.
Understand
And by the time
that.
you get the decision, we've already have to go through this process. Because the petition's been filed, it's been accepted, we've got time constraints now.
Right.
Can a petition be filed against the petition for withdrawal? There's other voices in this town, and I can only assume that there's more than are on that paper.
Then inform the committee and go against voting against it.
Just vote against it.
It's a vote.
But we're gonna spend the money first?
No, you don't. It's a vote. There's no cost. It's a vote.
The only problem with that is going forth with the vote is, last time it was just, it was just to get the facts, but it's not. It starts the process and it doesn't stop. Even if we vote to do the study and we vote to form the RSU, do a withdrawal, it doesn't matter how bad that agreement is.
Unless
we
it's
still
voted
go forward.
down.
Huh?
Unless it's voted down. To not go forward.
Right, but if
That's what I'm saying. So if he's saying, can we vote against, can you go committee against it? Yes, you form a thing, and you get out your vote, and you give out actual facts.
But what I'm saying, if people are out there saying it's just to get the facts, it's just to get the study done, it's not just to do that, it's to start the process.
Right, if it passes. Right, I'm
Right.
agreeing with you, it's like a
It's
task.
misinformation.
But there's a lot of misinformation out there. People think it's just to get some facts. No, you're starting the process and it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop even if the withdrawal agreement is horrible, which the last one was. I can't even believe we would even consider it. I believe school choice was taken away with that. There was no middle school choice whatsoever. So we're going, we're fighting for choice, but what we're doing is we're taking away choice. And then the study, I believe we went to, I remember Port Tache, got an earful. I don't believe the study came out until October 12th. And we went to vote on November 6th or something, right at the beginning of November, 7th. And we had 20 some odd days to educate the entire town about how this was going to impact them. The truth of the matter, it didn't matter about the impact. All we had was a withdrawal on the mind. It didn't matter. And it was like a mad dash to try to get this information out to people, to educate them. I just can't imagine why we would ever consider even going through this again. What it did to the community. It's time to embrace it.
I agree with everything that Linda said. Does the Board of Selectmen have any options on what to do with this petition, or are you locked in to taking it to a vote in June? Do you have any discretion in what to do with
We're
the
locked
petition?
Only discussion we have is when we call a special meeting, that's it.
That's why I made the motion. We had
If you're locked in, I would just suggest that discussing it anymore tonight is an exercise in futility.
There will be a public hearing on it.
Settle tonight.
A couple of things. When this goes in front of the voters in June, are you planning on putting that on like a ballot when we go to vote at the ballot?
It has to be a secret ballot.
Okay, well, you can do secret ballot at town meeting too.
No, it has to be.
Okay, I just want to be sure. But I think that there has to be a few things clarified because there's stuff floating all over the place. I think there are some facts that are very clear. One is, they told us we would have school choice. That is undeniable. They said that was gonna happen. They waited till the last minute, and they said no. Then they took the busing, and while people can say that the busing isn't done yet, they have every right under state statute to not bus high school students. They don't have to bus any high school students. None. They don't have to bus any of them. But the only students that they have made a first vote to discontinue high school busing are the Arundel students that chose to go to TA. Okay? Those things are, you can't deny those things have happened. And they've already done a first vote. And there were only, I believe, 2 people that voted against that. So,
It was a very sensible, money-saving move to stop.
Please don't talk to each other, adapt to the people.
well, I think that you also have to understand that we as a town, before we joined this RSU, had our own policies about busing. And we have always transported our high school students as long as, and I believe the policy back then was 12 students. As long as there were 12 students going to school, we bused them. Now, if you really want to save money on busing, you don't transport any high school students. But they only chose to discontinue busing to one segment. And that's the part that bothers me. Aside from the fact that I sat on the board when they said we would have choice and we don't. But there are a lot of things that have to get clarified, and I agree it's probably going to have to go to court. But they have already voted on what's going to happen to middle school kids. And that is, the middle school students that are at TA today will finish out if that's what they choose to do. The 5th graders get a choice. After 5th grade, there is no choice any longer. They have to go to the middle school at Kennebunk. That is going to divide a lot of families in this town. I have a neighbor, 3 kids. One can choose one, the other 2 have to go to another. It's not always fair. I also understand about taxes. But I've also sat on that board long enough to know that they added this program, added this, and added this. I also know that they also did negotiate certain things in teachers' contracts, which probably would have equated to what it cost for busing, because I asked the chair that myself. Okay? And when you look at those meetings, which is probably one of the things that irritates me the most, and you listen to them talk about us, especially the meeting about the busing, it was like we bring nothing to the table. That we were nothing, that we don't pay anything in taxes. We bring in revenue from the state. The town of Kennebunk brings in no revenue from the state, but they kept their busing. So that's when I get a little, when you start looking at it, it becomes a little lopsided for me. And that's one of the reasons why I'd like to see some answers. It's one of the reasons why I testified. I have to say, I was a little disappointed that out of all our representatives who stood in front of us as we got ready to withdraw and agreed that we'd have school choice, there wasn't one single representative from this town that said anything at that school board meeting.
So I just want to make a clarification to Diane's comment. You know, she talked about the vote. The vote had nothing to, although it could lead to it, the vote had nothing to do with funding for busing. All the vote did was change the quantity of students that they had to pay for busing from 15 to nothing. So although it could lead to it, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to take busing away. It allows them to do that, but it doesn't mean that they're going to take it away just by voting that vote.
That's what they said. They say they had no intent of busing high school students to Thornton any longer.
Simone, do you have something to add?
I was going to say, as a taxpayer, I'd almost rather see us contract out and bus our kids if we need to, than to withdraw and hurt all of the kids in general.
You have your hand up on it?
Yeah, I did. I just want to make it clear, it's not like they were like segmenting Arundel and they weren't busing Arundel kids. They're a school district and we're busing outside of our school district. They're not busing the kids that are going to Wayne Fleet, they're not busing the kids that go to Berwick Academy, they're not busing outside of their district. So it has nothing to do with Arundel, it has only to do with busing outside the school district. And who is they when you say they didn't tell us until the 10th hour? I mean, I don't think, we're blaming the RSU on the fact that this choice thing came up. I mean, everybody knows that there's letters going around that it was the state that told us we had school choice. It wasn't the RSU, it came from the state. So if we want to blame somebody, we blame the state.
In response to that, what happened is at the withdrawal committee meetings, when we had public meetings in regards to withdrawal, I sat on that school board. They told me we would continue to have choice, and they told everyone else in that room during those withdrawal meetings that we would continue to have school choice. My problem is that was only good until it was time to have choice.
Could we clarify, there is a legally mandated timeline for us to vote on the forming a withdrawal committee and then voting on withdrawal? Is there a timeline for that, or do we decide it? No. Like, is there like a maximum amount of time, like you have to do it within a year of this exception?
If the vote were to go forward with withdrawal?
Well, or even like when the withdrawal vote, like, do we form a committee? Is there like a time other than the 45 days minimum?
I don't think the statute speaks to any time.
No, the statute's not specific, although it does say that a special election
staff,
shall be held for that purpose, and that contemplates that it would be sooner rather than later.
Right.
But even if we voted in June to form a withdrawal committee, did we then have to vote in November, or could that be pushed?
If there's a time period within which the withdrawal committee is
There's no
supposed to
specific time period within which the final vote needs to be taken. It does say that a withdrawal agreement is supposed to be submitted to the commissioner for approval within 90 days,
yeah.
but that has been extended.
No kidding.
I don't believe anybody's made that headline.
Okay.
Yeah.
Clarification.
Can I also clarify that isn't there part of the statute that there has to be such a percentage of a electoral, a presidential election, a percentage of vote for the town in order for it to pass or not to pass?
That's what this petition satisfies.
Right, but no, I meant
no.
the vote for the actual withdrawal. Isn't there a percentage that has to be a number of votes?
The final vote, the change in the final vote was that in order to have a final vote, you had to have
voting people at the ballot had to be at least 50% of the previous gubernatorial election.
And that's why getting to
So in
November.
other words,
would
if
be
we had
something.
1,800 voters vote in the gubernatorial elections, at the final vote, at least 901 people would have to come and vote. And then 50% plus one.
That's to approve the withdrawal itself.
The actual
Not
withdrawal.
not this.
No,
yes.
that's just a straight 50%.
Right.
But I'm saying in regard to if there was this was to move forward, the goal would get to November because that's when most people are going to be voting for president. Therefore, that's the most amount of electoral people going to a vote.
Right.
To get at the actual full experience of the people of Arundel who are be voting anyway versus a special election to the side where people might not come and then there'll be that whole, well, we didn't get to use our voice. Well, this is actually a time that there'll be the most people coming to vote, so actually you'll get the full picture of what Arundel would want.
Matthew White, was there 38 years. All I'll say is this is pretty much part of my first goddamn mess. That's the only way to word it. I have a question actually to the board. You have the petition, obviously it's moving forward. Can you as a selectman council, or you want to word yourselves, reach out to other towns that have been through this already? Maybe pass a motion that you could make a small, pass a motion to reach out to another town that's gone through this and has successfully done it. I'm not sure what some of the towns are. Dayton, I think, might be one. Correct me if I'm wrong. So we reach out to other towns within your area and talk with their board. Maybe set up a meeting between your board and their board and see how they went through it, what they did. Give you guys a better idea of what you're going to be facing. I mean, I see a lot of
we have some experience ourselves. We've done it
Yeah,
once
we've
already.
gone through this.
Well, maybe.
And I got the file right here.
3 or 4 years ago.
They have get a fresh eye on it. From trying to see from the voice of the people. Never hurts to get a fresh perspective on this. So that some of that emotional stuff is pushed away, but more of the legal.
Just quickly, we're obviously hearing a lot of things, but I think the problem that I'm hearing too is it seems to be a time constraint. I don't think there's any question that there's going to be some type of a legal action taken by Thornton, trying to get the judgment or actually find out where the heck we stand on the interpretation of the law. I guess I'm with a lot of people that I'm hearing that I'd like to know where that falls first before we start investing time. I do understand on the other side, if we're crunched, time-wise, that puts us in a bad spot. But I mean, I would think by November, you mentioned that next election, it's going to be a lot of people. Now, I know that, I think you had said there's no possible way that withdrawal could happen after that point. But maybe we're all trying to work as 3 communities because I think somebody said it perfectly just a little while ago. I think it's a moot point if the judge upholds what the interpretation is that Thornton and most of Arundel feel it is, that it's going to be choice. And I agree with Simone there. I'd rather be in a battle with transportation for a few $100,000 than dealing with possibly millions of dollars. I'd like to know that prior, and if that means we can push off, then maybe we approach the RSU and say, listen, this is where we stand. You know, is there some type of a, can we get an extension on that 2017 year until this gets settled, and give us, let's say it does not come back positive for the Arundel, and then it says we don't lose that time, so to speak. Can I make myself clear on that? Is that, I don't know if I, so that we at least know what we have. I think we're trying to get that cart in front of the horse here. I think we need to just, we're reacting and not responding to some of the things that we don't have answers to at this particular time. And I understand there's, you know, there's emotion involved with people feeling people are lying and so forth. I just think if we kind of look at it objectively and find out what's going to happen with the actual law, how it's going to be interpreted, we're going to be in a much better situation moving forward either way as a town. I would think if whatever side you're on, if it goes against us, I think you can approach people and have a much more, better case to explain yourself. And same thing on the other side, if it goes for us, why the heck do we want to go through a withdrawal if it does come back in our interpretation that we feel, that a good portion feel it is too. So I think by November, if it was pushed to that, I would have March, I just think we're rushing things, and I can kind of understand why it seems to be a time limit, but if we could get some type of an agreement with the RSU or the towns or whatnot, and at least hear what's going on legally, that's gonna bind us, we're gonna be in a much better situation as a town. Personally, that's just my opinion.
I agree.
So, one thing is clear, you know, tonight the petition has kept it move forward. I mean, it came through the board, we have no choice, it has to move forward. If I'm TA, I'm gonna sit back and let it run its course. Why am I gonna spend money? It's gonna go through the town of Arundel, and if it gets voted that they separate, then TA has their cake and they can eat it too. If now all of a sudden it gets voted down, then at that point TA can sit back and say, geez, we're losing dollars, and at that point they'll hop in. This petition, I think, should have never happened, because it would have forced TA to grab a judge and go fight in the folks that want school choice. At this point now, I don't, you know, we're stuck.
Yeah.
And that's
Very
where we
good
are.
point. This thing has been pushed too fast before the RSU has made decisions that they need to make, and before the courts have had a chance to look at it. There's been an agenda by some people in this town for a couple of years now to get this town out of the RSU. It's very unfortunate that it's wound up in this position.
Absolutely.
Rob Hebert from Arundel. I don't know what he's talking about a couple of years now. Mr. Danlick, I think you know this has been going on for an awful long time. Okay? There's been a lot of both sides throwing rocks, throwing mud at each other, lying, whatever it may be. Our kids aren't tax dollars. They're kids. Okay? So let them go where they want to go. Period. Bottom line. How can they stop the busing for the high school kids? That's what I want to know. Mine already, I drive it. I don't care, so I don't care about transportation. But what about these other kids? Well, they're blocking it. Doesn't Arundel have choice like that? Aren't you guys supposed to transport our kids?
We don't do any of that, the RSU does that.
The RSU did not do that before the state put us in the RSU. What did we do as a community before that?
We
And
had our own
shouldn't we
buses.
support our kids?
We had our own buses.
That's what I'm asking.
We had buses, Robbie, right?
Kennybunk has a point. Certain contracts up. 7th and 8th graders gotta go to Kennybunk Middle. Bottom line, unless something happens. What about the high school kids? That's what I wanna know, because the kids that wanna stay in Kennybunk will have buses, but the ones that go to TA, out in the cold, that's not fair. Once again, shady trick. Nice try, guys.
I was just gonna answer to Mr. DeGraw. As far, or DeGraw, I don't know how you say it here in Maine, but anyway, I just kind of think that, have you guys, any of you spoken to TA or spoken to RSU 21 about what their plans are? And I know that's been brought up a few times, but I think that, you know, you're saying, well, this gives TA the choice to just have their cake and eat it too. Well, I think you should sit down with Mr. Menard and have, and I know he came to the last meeting, but I think you should sit down with him and talk to him and find out what they can do to help us out. And I think the same with Katie Hawes at RSU 21. And as far as like taking away choice, or taking away the ability for kids to go in there, I don't want to take away the ability for the kids to go to MSK or Kennybunk, and I don't want to take away the choice for the kids to go to TNS or TA. I just think that it would be nice if we didn't have to do withdrawal, and at the same time, I think that something needs to get done, and I think the town needs to be involved actively with the choice and with the decision. So,
There's been no decision on transportation. So
I
Mr.
know, but
Menard,
that's what I'm saying.
Mr. Menard has made it very clear that he's not gonna do anything until the RSU makes a decision.
Right.
They have,
Yeah. Which is supposed to be the next meeting?
Monday, as far as transportation goes.
well, I think they left it up that she needed to have a discussion with him, so that was at the last.
She
one.
tried. He said it was up to us.
But-
He said it at the
No,
meeting.
That was before.
No.
Let me just say, you know, I talked to Katie, Ms. Hawes, at the end of the last RSU meeting. I asked her about, you know, what's going on. I mean, to me, they need to go to TA with a plan, not just go to TA and say, hey, you know, can
Right,
you do
but
busing?
doesn't our
So,
town have to be
so-
involved with that too?
that's the RSU. You know, that's not our decision to do
But
that.
it's about just the Arundel kids, it's not about all of the the 3 community splits, so that's why I was thinking.
Katie has told me that she has reached out and she has given Mr. Menard some numbers or a plan of what they would be willing to pay. So I don't know the specifics, but she has reached out to him. She has put something on the table with him. Where that stands, I don't know. We'd have to check with them, and you'll find out more at the next RSU meeting. Hopefully at that point
I'm
they'll
just
have some
asking
answers.
for more from us to directly speak with both places. Maybe sit down at a table and have a person kind of moderating it or something and finding out for ourselves instead of finding out from them or finding out from them. It would just, that's what I'm requesting.
Lindsay Worson, Fairway Drive. I hear what you're saying about the petition, and I appreciate your opinion. What I think is, I'm hoping that TA will see the support that they've given our families, and I'm really bad at public speaking, so I apologize. I hope that they see, well, what I think from Thornton, I think that Thornton sees more out of our kids than just dollars. I don't think they can keep a middle school without Arundel students. They have teachers there, they have ed techs, they have coaches. I think they need our kids, and I'm hoping this petition shows them that we're happy they're there. If that makes sense.
I guess my question is, you know, there's so much about, and this is a big reason why we brought Attorney Stockford here today, is that there's so much about, well, the RSU has done this, or they haven't made a decision on this, and how come TA hasn't stepped up, and how come they haven't done this, and it should be a simple thing, it's all about money, let's figure out this $215,000, how we can get TA to pay for this and the RSU to pay for this. My question is where is our voice? Where we're being represented for all of those that are pro-RSU, for lack of a better term, by the school board. And God love her, Catherine did her best speaking up for the rest of the town. TA, I think, will take some sort of action to do something, whether it be help with busing or whatnot. My question is us as a town, you as a board, residents, where does our voice come in? And that's why, again, we brought Attorney Stockford here today, because of the questions surrounding the petition. We want voices heard impartially, and to have all of our voices, those who want on both sides of the aisle, but we want it done in a way that is fair, and it shouldn't all be pawned off to the RSU and TA. I just think that we as a town need to have some say in both sides of this. And I don't know how to go about doing it. And saying that it's up to TA to come forward with some numbers, or the RSU to do this, when ultimately the RSU has continuously, and I know some will disagree, stalled. This transportation first came up on January 20th. We are now mid-March, and there's still no decision, and since that came up, we're now losing our middle school choice. So in the span of 2 months, we've gone from, what are we gonna do about busing, to high school, to, guess what, now we don't have middle school choice. It's this slippery slope, I guess, that we're on, and we have no say on this board. That was very, very clear the other night. I just think we as a town need to, again, get the facts, get all of this moving, but we also need to do it in a way that provides everybody on both sides of the aisle to have trust in the process. And I think that's what's lacking right now.
Can I say something about the RSU board and not having any say? We have 3 members on the board, things came up for it. I saw a lot of people from the other towns supporting Arundel in their choice. We don't have any say what goes on at TAMS or TA. And we have, and to say that we don't have a voice, I mean, we need to support our board members that are on the board and be there with them and help them along, but I mean, that's the way you don't, yeah, that's the way that it works. I mean, just because like, I'm on the chamber board, yes. There's 17 of us, and there's only 3 of us from Arundel, but we're heard.
Well, it's very
We're heard.
difficult to have that when, again, the weighted votes aside, you have one member of, who's supposedly representing Arundel, calling the group who wants to withdraw publicly a very small, very angry mob. Publicly. So, that's one.
One on the referee.
And it started, everybody knows that this petition started before any of this came
And
up.
I can't speak to any of that. I can't. All that I can speak for is me and why I signed that petition and why I have been at every meeting since this has gone. I can't speak to those who signed in 2014. My true belief is the way that this has been handled by the RSU has been unfair. It has not been transparent, and it has been blatantly unfair to those who the RSU promised that school choice would remain. And not school choice for high school, I mean school choice for middle school. We will, barring state changes, we'll have school choice for high school. And I get transportation hasn't been decided yet. But taking this middle school away from this town, and to use the argument of TA, there wasn't choice before, well, TA built that school for our kids. Built it for our kids when nobody else wanted them, including MSAD 71. I believe that's what it was called. That's why they fought to keep that 10-year contract. That's why, to fund the 10 years of our kids going there, because they built a school for our kids.
That was a business decision.
In the blue, yeah.
Yeah, hi, I'm Ken. I got a question. You guys are obviously all elected officials of the town. I'd like to understand where your stance on this, right? Because you're representing us in this whole thing. I don't think we're alone in saying that it seems a little odd that things were said and things aren't being upheld. What is your take on this thing publicly? Did you guys all understand it the way the rest of the town did, that there would be choice?
A middle school choice?
Correct.
Everybody was getting their information from DOE.
But I mean, for the last
It's a
couple of years.
misunderstanding.
For the last couple of years, did you guys all think the same thing, that there was choice until this thing popped up two months ago?
I think it was a surprise to everybody, including the superintendent.
Yeah, superintendent of schools was surprised.
Well, it's hard to believe the superintendent was surprised, because she's probably the one who put in the, but I guess my point is, I agree with what's being said, right? So we have 3 positions on the school board. We'll always be outvoted because we're the smaller universe. And so I think what the town is saying is that we're losing control of our town. And, you know, people are asking you guys questions, and you're like, hey, it's out of our hands, it's RSU 21. Our kids are our most important asset, yet we're gonna farm them out and say, hands are up. And what the hell happened to our control? Why don't we have any say in what happens to our kids? That's my question. So the other piece of that is, I mean, before we were forced into this RSU because it was a state mandate, we obviously, were we fiscally stable in running our own school system before that?
No.
No. I'm not asking the crowd, excuse me, I'm asking the board.
I don't know that.
I don't know the answer.
I don't know that I could answer that myself, but.
I don't know about physically stable, but I know the condition of the school was not, and the resources that were given to our kids was not anywhere up to where it is.
But we could have raised our taxes a little bit, just like we're gonna have to raise it to pay for
You know,
Kennebunk High
that's-
School and their $40 million improvement. So I guess my point is, we could, either way, we're gonna have to pay more taxes, whether we're paying for our own school because we're a separate system, or if we're gonna pay for a Kennebunk High School, which is part of the RSU, which is not part of our town. So my point is, I guess I'm just looking for your support, to support the people of the town, and help answer some of these questions, because it does really feel like we're just kind of putting it out there and putting our hands up and saying, there's nothing we can do about it, when that really should be the case. Thank you.
Going back to your question about fiscal responsible, from the budget board meetings that I had gone to previously, Arundel's teachers were the lowest paid in York County, and they were excellent teachers. They've always been excellent teachers. Basically, you were looking at a fixed tuition cost for high school. You were looking at fixed teacher costs, which were contracted with their unions. Fixed bus driver costs, because those were also union contracts. We had K through 8. And so basically, the cuts that were made, and then once we contracted with Thornton Academy, you had fixed tuition costs with Thornton Academy. So basically, your cuts were made for K through 5 and the building maintenance. And you know what the building was like prior to, they did some of these ADA repairs, which has helped out. But you know, last winter, we were shoveling off the gym because of the condition of the gym, the sinking wings and everything. Our teachers were one of the biggest users of this Bessie facility, which was for free supplies. Our books had not been upgraded, you know, for a long time. That was always one of the things as far as, you know, getting supplies and things like that. I don't think that we were really funding it as it should have been funded. We were doing, for a long time, we were doing K through 8. You had no choice. Being just, as far as the board, I don't know, as far as, I'm not always privy to the information they were. We had been getting calls at the town office. I was always under the impression that once the contract was over, that the RSU, because we voted to join the RSU, we would become part of the RSU for middle school. But I contacted, and people were calling realtors or whatever, and I was telling them to call the RSU because I was under the impression that we didn't have it, but I'd heard rumors that we had. So I think there was a lot of misunderstanding as far as that interpretation. But to say that we were fiscally well with the school, I don't think so, because I think we were not funding it the way we should have been funding it. Again, Mr. Jewett was saying with his child that, you know, I think a lot of special ed needs were not being met as they should have been. A lot of things like that were not being met.
Thank you.
In your opinion, though, can the school, I mean, school boards, you know, come and go, management of money, you know, can go up and down. In your opinion, do you think the school could sustain itself if the town would provide it with enough funds to do so? Without going into debt.
Anytime you want to fund something, it can provide for it, but I don't think, I think, you know, people talk about control. I don't think the public, but school board meetings were attended. Nobody came to see that the school board was doing what they wanted, and this is a crisis. Nobody comes to meetings. It happens with the selectmen, it happens with school board meetings. Nobody attends unless something happens. And I don't think that, as far as, it was always, it came between the budget board, and it was always, well, if you have to increase the school, it's cut the town, and if it's vice versa, and it was always, let's keep the tax rate flat. So what did they cut? It was, you know, the budget board would meet with the school board to do their budget, and then they would meet with the town to do ours, and it was always, let's keep the tax rate not to increase too much. So it's like I said, the K through 5 and building maintenance were always least funded, because the others were mandatory. And you know, I don't do the budget, so I'm not that, but I'm just saying that this is, that was historically how I believe it went.
My understanding is the town went, the school rather, went into the RSU with zero debt. And again, the mismanagement or whatever you want to call it from other school boards, that can always change. I mean, the numbers can always change. You can make numbers work, at least my understanding of budgets.
I'm not going to get into that, I don't know.
Yeah, people have always talked about how we have to pay for the Kennebunk High School. What is our actual cost for the new bond? And how much are we getting for the renovation of Mildred Day? We might have that number.
We're paying around 10% of the bond.
So 4.6 million, I think, what was it, 46 and a half?
I think right now our Mildred Day is about 6.9.
And the renovation to Mildred Day costs? 9?
It's 11.
11.
So we get more out of this bond than we pay in.
Yes.
Absolutely. I just want to make that point, that we are not paying really for the Kennebunk High School.
No. We're not even paying for Mildred all day.
Yeah.
But we're paying we're getting money for Mildred L. Day to be renovated.
Correct.
Anything else from the public? Did you have something?
Yeah. You know, the discussion is, it's great discussion, but, you know, a lot of what we're talking about tonight is kind of moot at this point. I mean, we have to move forward with this, with the petition, and, you know, from my perspective, I encourage you folks to, I'm sure you will, and there'll be many more, but there's gonna be a public hearing on that, and we'll have these discussions over again. I think we've gone over the same thing over and over again tonight, and I think as a board, it'd be nice for us to continue on and move on with our stuff. And, you know, any discussions at this point are pretty moot, because we have to move forward. We have to move forward that petition, and we can go from there, so. That's it.
Unless the people that submitted it withdraw it,
That's not gonna happen.
it'd be the right thing to do.
That's sticking. Good suggestion.
Why does people here and some whatnot? This might sound like a silly request, but I know you said moving forward with big meetings and more discussion on this. Could I make a request as a parent to make them so that the parents can attend? Unlike what the RSU has done for Wednesday at 7:30 in the morning to discuss our busing, where I have to get a kid on the bus. Can we, as you as a board or a selectman, try to arrange those meetings so they're evening meetings like this, or people who are male or female or whoever can get babysitting? Maybe
All our meetings are at this time. All our meetings are at
That's-
7
double check.
o'clock at night, 6 or 7 o'clock at night.
Or any special meetings, or anything.
Yep.
Yeah, that goes on this subject. Sounds like a silly request, but as a parent, it's trying to find babysitting. Trust me. Very much.
Anything else from the public? Missy?
So what happens now? The petition is in, you've accepted it, what is the next step?
We've got to decide on what the number is that will be inserted in the warrant article.
And you do that as a board, or is that a,
The statute doesn't say, but I don't know where else we go to get that number other than the board selecting to insert it at this point. And once that number is fixed, then we'll have to fix the date for a vote on that warrant article. And Keith is suggesting we do it in concert with a town meeting, a regular town meeting, just for numbers. But we haven't decided that yet, but that's the process.
okay.
Linda?
Does it make sense? I mean, last time 35,000 obviously wasn't enough because they're saying that the study was flawed. So, I mean, just to put 35,000 out there and have another flawed study, it should be more, right?
25 though, the 35 last time around.
I don't know.
We only spent 25 of the 35 last time around.
I'm just saying if it's, you know,
Make sure it's a
if
good
they're
one.
saying that the numbers were flawed, we want to make sure that spend enough money to get them right this time.
Rob?
I'm just confused on how we've been beyond this already once on the withdrawal. How do we not know the process as a board yet on how to withdraw when we were so close to withdrawing, what, just a few years ago? How do we not know where we are in this process? There are some familiar faces on this board that went through it. How can we not know the process by now?
I think we know it, Robbie.
Yeah, we know the process.
Well, we're asking for some answers, but
I
we
just
don't
gave
know
you some
where,
answers.
we don't know where the next step is, but we've already been through this. This is Groundhog Day.
I was just trying to get clarification as to, do we come to another meeting, do you just set that and the date will be set, or, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't dropping the ball on anything that we were supposed to be doing. But
I think Keith's gonna get us some information that we spent last time out. As I said earlier, I think we have to think about some RFPs to garner some proposals with respect to the economic analysis and council.
Can you say what an RFP is?
Request for proposals.
Okay.
Anything else, public? See none, let's move on. Why don't we take a short 5-minute recess?
Hey, how you doing?
Fine, how are you?